Every time you click buy online, your money starts this incredible hidden journey. But what if we could redesign that journey to completely reshape a country's e-commerce? Well, today we're doing just that. We're going to follow a single 100 rupee note through India's game-changing open network for digital commerce to see how it all works.
Okay, let's start with something we've all done a million times. You're scrolling, you see a shirt you like, you click buy, and you pay 100 rupees. It feels so simple, doesn't it? Almost instant. A straight line from you to the seller. But is that what's really happening behind the screen? Because in the new world of ONDC, the open network for digital commerce, things get way more interesting. See, this whole system is designed to break up the old way of doing e-commerce, but that means it also adds a few new players and a few new steps to your money's journey. So, yeah, that 100 rupees, it doesn't just poof from your account into the seller's. Not at all. It travels through this complex network, it pays little fees along the way, and it gets split up into smaller pieces. And to really get what the future of e-commerce in India looks like, we have to follow the money. All right, so if we're gonna follow that 100 rupee note, we first need to know who's who in this whole setup. Let's meet the cast of characters, the key players in every single ONDC transaction. First up, the most important person, the buyer. Yep, that's you. You're the one holding the 100 rupees, the person who kicks this entire process into motion. And then, of course, you've got the seller. This could be anyone, right? Your local corner store or a huge brand. They're the ones who are hoping to get most of that 100 rupees in the end. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. You don't just log into ONDC. Instead, you use what's called a buyer app. Think of something like Paytm or PhonePe. It's basically your personal window into this entire marketplace. And on the flip side, the seller has their own app, the seller app. This is their digital storefront, how they get their products out there for you to see, no matter which buyer app you happen to be using. Then you have the folks who do the actual heavy lifting, literally, the logistics partner. They're the ones responsible for getting that shirt from the seller's shelf all the way to your front door. And finally, tying this whole thing together is ONDC itself. Now remember, it's not an app you download. Think of it more like a digital highway. A set of common rules that lets all these different apps and services talk to each other seamlessly. It's the magic in the middle. Okay, so we've got our players on the field, but before a single rupee can move, it has to get through the tax maze. And trust me, this is where it gets really important to pay attention. So you've basically got two big ones to wrap our heads around. First, there's GST. That's the goods and services tax on the actual thing you bought. You, the customer, are the one who pays for that. Then there's something called withholding tax. This is a little different. It's a small chunk of the payment that gets held back and sent straight to the government. It's kind of like an advanced tax payment for the seller. Okay, but here's the really clever part of the tax system, something called GST credit. This lets businesses in the chain get a refund on the GST they paid for their own expenses. Why does this matter? Well, it's super important because it stops a tax on a tax problem and helps keep the final price you pay as low as possible. All right, we've met the players, we know the rules of the road. Now we get to the big question, the fork in the road, really. When you click pay, who actually collects your 100 rupees? Because the answer changes everything about how that money flows through the system. So let's explore scenario number one. This is where the app you're shopping with, the buyer app, is the one that collects your money. Okay, so you pay your 100 rupees and it goes straight to your buyer app. Now that app becomes kind of a central treasurer. First, it pays the delivery company. Then it sends the seller's platform its cut, which includes fees for them and for ONDC. And finally, whatever's left over goes to the actual seller after all the taxes are sorted out. See how that works? Right? But that's only one way this can play out. What if we flip the script? What happens if the seller's platform collects the cash instead? Now this changes the whole journey. Your 100 rupees zips past the buyer app and goes directly to the seller app. Now it's the treasurer, so it pays the logistics partner, it pays your buyer app its commission, it pays the ONDC fee, and then at the end of the line, it settles up with the seller. The money ends up in the same places, but the path it takes is totally different. But here's the thing, no matter which of these two models is being used behind the scenes, there's one golden rule. For you, the buyer, it has to feel simple. You should just get one single, easy-to-understand invoice. All this complexity, it's supposed to be completely invisible to you. So you might be thinking, why does any of this matter? Who cares how the money moves around? Well, it matters a lot, because getting this flow right is the key to making ONDC work for everyone, making it cheap,
efficient, and super simple to use.
The whole system is being built on a few really important principles. 1, make things cheaper for you, the buyer. 2, make it easy for businesses to claim their GST credits so no money gets wasted. 3, and this is a big one, keep it simple with that single invoice. And finally, make sure platform fees are totally transparent and fair.
And to actually pull this off, a couple of key recommendations have been put forward. First, they need to clarify the tax laws so you don't end up in a weird situation where both the buyer and seller apps are trying to withhold tax on the same payment. That's a big no-no. Second, they're suggesting that ONDC itself should get a special tax certificate to help its cash flow, because remember, it's meant to be a nonprofit digital public good. And that really brings us back to our 100 rupee question, doesn't it? ONDC is this massive, ambitious vision for a more democratic digital marketplace. But what's fascinating is that its ultimate success might not just hinge on brilliant code, but on getting the boring stuff, the taxes, the invoicing, to be just as simple, smart, and elegant as the technology itself.